Karen thought she was untouchable. She strutted around the neighborhood like she owned every driveway, every mailbox, every blade of grass. Rules didn't apply to her, they were her. If she didn't like the color of your shutters, she'd fine you. If she thought your dog barked too loud, she'd call animal control. And if she decided your vehicle didn't fit the community image, she'd have it towed. But this time she went too far. One morning, I walked out to find the heavy lock on my garage cut clean through. My Jeep, my pride, my workhorse, the vehicle that had carried me through storms, hunts, and missions, was gone. At first, I thought it had been stolen. But then I saw the HOA notice taped to my door in bright, smug letters. Your vehicle has been removed for violating community standards. Removed? No, it had been snatched. By Karen. What she didn't know, what she couldn't have imagined, was that this wasn't just a Jeep. This was a fully outfitted vehicle registered to a joint police task force, equipped for operations most civilians never even hear about. She hadn't just cut a lock. She had interfered with law enforcement property, and when the task force found out, they didn't just come knocking, they came roaring. Before we go on, hit subscribe, so stories like this reach you first. People think a Jeep is just a car, a rugged off-roader maybe, or a toy for weekend trails. But mine wasn't. My Jeep was part of something bigger, registered under a federal task force that worked in partnership with local police, state troopers, and even a few three-letter agencies. To most people, it looked like an old mud-splattered Wrangler with a reinforced bumper and oversized tires. To those who knew, it was a tool, outfitted with encrypted comms, hidden compartments, tactical gear, and modifications that made it invaluable during certain operations. It was nondescript by design, able to blend into rural neighborhoods and back roads, yet tough enough to push through flood zones, fire breaks, or barricades when missions demanded it. That Jeep had history. I'd driven it through hurricane relief zones, helped evacuate families stranded in snowstorms, even used it to transport undercover officers when an op went bad. It was more than a vehicle. It was part of my life, my service, and my pride. Which is why Karen's arrogance stung so deeply. Karen wasn't just a neighbor. She was the self-appointed queen of our HOA, the type of woman who carried a clipboard like it was a weapon and wielded bylaws like scripture. She loved power, and she loved using it to remind others they had none. It started small. Notes about unsightly trash cans, complaints about improper lawn length, petty fines that were always timed to arrive just before holidays. People grumbled but paid. Resistance, after all, only meant more fines, more harassment, more letters threatening legal action. I stayed under her radar at first. My property sat on the edge of the subdivision, and I mostly kept to myself. I was rarely home during daylight hours, and when I was, I kept quiet. But my Jeep, it stood out. It was older, scratched, utilitarian, and didn't shine like the polished SUVs and minivans she approved of. The first notice I got was laughable. Your vehicle is inconsistent with the community's image standards. Please park it inside your garage. I ignored it. My Jeep was parked in my driveway, not on the street, and my deed explicitly allowed for that. The second notice wasn't so funny. Failure to comply will result in penalties and potential towing at owner's expense. That time, I called her. Karen, you don't touch that Jeep. It's not just mine, it's government property. She laughed. Government property, please. Don't feed me tall tales. That rusty old thing is an eyesore. This is a family neighborhood, not a junkyard. I wanted to tell her exactly what that Jeep had done, who it had carried, the operations it had quietly supported. But classified means classified. So I just said, cut that lock, tow that Jeep, and you'll find out how wrong you are. She hung up on me. For a while, it seemed she'd backed off. Weeks passed, and I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd decided it wasn't worth the fight. But then whispers started. Neighbors told me Karen was fuming. She'd been spotted ranting about lawbreakers in our subdivision. She'd told people I was hiding stolen government equipment, and that it was her duty to clean up the neighborhood. She wanted a war. One Friday evening, I locked the Jeep inside my garage before heading out for a late shift. That lock wasn't ordinary. It was reinforced, the kind of thing designed to resist bolt cutters. But Karen didn't know the first thing about limits. I came home Saturday morning to find the lock cut clean in half, lying like a dead snake on the driveway. My garage door was open. The Jeep was gone. And taped to my front door was the infamous HOA notice. Your vehicle has been removed for violating community standards. Please contact the HOA office to resolve this matter. I stood there in silence for a full minute, staring at the paper, my blood humming in my ears. Removed? No, it had been stolen. At first, I thought about calling Karen directly, storming over to her pristine porch and demanding answers. But then I realized this wasn't just about me anymore. She hadn't taken a Jeep. She'd taken federal property, equipment tied to ongoing operations. By cutting that lock, she'd crossed a line most people didn't even know existed. So instead, I made a different call. I called the task force. Within an hour, 2 unmarked SUVs rolled into the neighborhood. Men I'd worked with stepped out, hard-faced, silent, efficient. They didn't waste time with questions. They already knew what a missing Jeep meant. We walked straight to the HOA office. Karen was inside, sipping coffee like she was hosting a garden club. She smiled that smug smile when she saw me. "Well, well," she said. "Come to collect your little toy? Don't worry, we had it towed to a secure location. You can thank me later." One of the agents leaned in. "Where is it?" His voice was low, dangerous. Karen blinked. "Excuse me? Who are you?" "Where is the Jeep?" For the first time, her mask slipped. She stammered about bylaws and authority, but when the badges came out, her face drained of color. She realized she hadn't just cut a homeowner's lock. She had stolen from the government. And that's when things started to spiral out of her control. Because the task force wasn't going to let this go quietly. Blood boiled in my veins. It wasn't just theft, it was federal interference. That Jeep was on the task force's registry. Every plate, every VIN number, every mod was logged. The moment Karen had it hauled off, she put herself and everyone else on a collision course with agencies she couldn't even imagine. I didn't call the HOA office. I called my task force contact. Within 30 minutes, unmarked SUVs rolled into my driveway. Men and women stepped out with calm precision. Badges tucked inside wallets, comms in their ears, scanning the scene like they'd done 100 times before. They didn't treat me like a victim. They treated me like part of the team. "Where'd they take it?" one agent asked. I showed them the HOA notice. Karen had signed it herself. The arrogance leapt off the page. We didn't kick down doors or storm in with sirens. No, we let Karen trap herself. The agent set up a quiet perimeter while I walked to the HOA clubhouse where her silver SUV was parked outside. Through the glass doors, I saw her sitting smugly at a table, sipping coffee with 2 board members. When I walked in, she smirked. "Here to beg for your junk back?" I kept my voice even. "You didn't just cut my lock, Karen. You stole a vehicle tied to law enforcement operations." Her smirk faltered, just a little. "Oh, please, don't try to scare me with your stories. The HOA has every right." That's when the agents walked in behind me. Badges flashed. Radios crackled. The room went dead silent. Karen's coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. One agent said calmly, "Ma'am, you're in possession of federal property. You need to take us to it, now." For the first time, Karen's mask cracked. She stammered, "Federal?" The walls were closing in, and she finally realized this wasn't a game of HOA bylaws anymore. It was a federal crime scene. Riding Karen led the agents through the gated storage lot with shaky hands. Every step she took seemed heavier, like the weight of her arrogance was finally crashing down. The Jeep sat in the corner, chained awkwardly by a cheap tow strap. Its tires were scuffed, the mirrors bent, signs it had been manhandled by someone who had no clue what they were dealing with. The lead agent motioned for me. "Confirm it." I walked up, ran my hand along the hood, and popped the latch. Inside, everything was still there. The gear, the comms, the hidden rigging. They hadn't cracked it open yet. Lucky for her. Karen tried to protest, voice trembling. I was just enforcing community rules. It was abandoned, unsightly. The agent cut her off. "Ma'am, this vehicle is part of ongoing federal operations. Interfering with it is a felony. Cutting locks, falsifying notices, unauthorized removal. You've stacked charges higher than you realize." Her face drained of color. One of the board members muttered, "Karen, What did you do? That was the moment the facade shattered. The queen of the HOA, who once barked fines and threats like a tyrant, stood trembling like a child caught with stolen candy. The agent secured the Jeep for transport, and I signed the release to resume my custody of it. Karen wasn't cuffed on the spot, but the message was clear. She was under investigation. As the SUVs rolled out, neighbors gathered at the edge of the street whispering. For the first time, their eyes weren't on me. They were on her. The same Karen who'd ruled them with fear was suddenly exposed, powerless against the weight of real authority. And deep down, I knew. This wasn't just about my Jeep anymore. It was about every neighbor she'd bullied, every fine she'd issued, every ounce of control she thought she had. The task force didn't just take back my Jeep, they took away her crown. After that day, Karen was never the same. The HOA board quietly removed her, and whispers of federal charges swirled like wildfire. Neighbors who once bowed to her petty power finally breathed easy, free from her constant threats. As for me, the Jeep stayed right where it belonged, on my property, secured with more than just a lock this time. Every time I saw it, I remembered the look on her face when badges came out. Fear, shock, and defeat. Before we go on, hit subscribe so stories like this reach you first.